So you're looking at me in a way that most people haven't seen me in over 41 years. It's the first time in 41 years that I have consciously not worn a wedding band. Isn't that interesting? You're saying, Lee, why don't you have a wedding band on? It's a long story. I'm going to share it with you. First, I want to tell you a story. There's like 3 stories that I'm going to blend in together as I weave this tale. The first story is about 2 brothers that were the sons of a great wealthy man in India. This man had thousands and thousands of acres, farmland that was supplying food to all the neighboring villages and towns. He was wealthy beyond belief with compounds for people to live, and each of the brothers had their own compound, and there was the master compound where the father lived. Well, the father reached an old age, and the father passed away. And at that time, it was split. The whole land, all the wealth, everything was split between the 2 sons, and they did it very easily and effortlessly. Well, as they were going through the father's house one day, they found this little, burlap sack type thing, a little thing, and in it were 2 rings. And one of the rings was solid gold and had jewels, diamonds and rubies in it. And the other ring was a very plain silver ring, nothing that would set it apart from anything else. Well, the older brother immediately said that this is not part of the estate. This is really an heirloom that should be passed down from generation to generation. So being the oldest, it's only natural that I get the gold ring with the jewels. And the younger brother just simply acknowledged and said yes. And so as their lives went on, there in India, there became times of great highs and great lows. One time the crops were great and there was a lot of rejoicing. The next year there was a drought and the crops were there. And the older brother just was not dealing well with it. And he got ill and he was having stress attacks. And he was going to the doctors because he couldn't sleep. And all these ailments were coming to him. And the younger brother just seemed through this whole time, he seemed to not be moved by it. One day they had a family gathering and the older brother looked at the younger brother and said, so why is it that we are experiencing the exact same things and you're dealing with it differently than I am? And the younger brother said, to be continued. So now, story number 2. Solomon. Remember Solomon in the Bible? The wisest man, the king of the Jews. He was so wise and he loved to play these games with the ministers that he under him because the ministers were always testing him to see how wise he was in that. Well, there was this one younger minister and Solomon said, I'm going to get him. So Solomon sent him out and said, you have 6 months to go all over the world and to find me a magic ring. And that magic ring will make a happy man sad and a sad man happy. And the man just couldn't believe what he had asked him. So he traveled for 6 months throughout the world. And he came back and he had like a day left and he didn't know what to do. So he went out into the community, the poor part of the community. And there was this jeweler there. And he says, I'm looking, you're my last hope. I'm looking for a ring. And that ring is to make a happy man sad and a sad man happy. Do you have it? And the jeweler went in back and he opened this little drawer and he pulled out this ring and he gave it to him. So the next day, Solomon, very proud as a royal man would be, said, your 6 months are up. Do you have this ring that I asked you to find? And the minister stood up, yes, your highness, I do. Solomon sort of stood back because he didn't realize there was any such thing. And so he gave him this ring. And Solomon wept, for he truly saw that this was the truth. Both of the rings said the same thing. And they said this too shall pass. So the ring that I have on, I'm having it inscribed on the inside. Because I believe that is the key. Everything I've listened to throughout my time in spirituality says, how do we deal being in the human arena? How do we deal being this God self and yet be a part of the human thing? And what I understand is we talk about the law of cause and effect, right? But do you realize that we can change that law to be the law of change? Do you hear that? The law of change. It means everything is always changing. What we have bought into is we have bought into this idea of materiality. And when you buy into the material wants you to believe that everything is constant, that there is no change, that form means everything. It was fascinating. If you've ever been on my Facebook page, I've got like 2,000 friends, and I'm going up. And I'm friending anyone who wants, I friend. And so I've got a circle of friends that are spiritual. I've got a circle of friends that are realtors. I must have 500 realtors. I mean, everyone wants to sell my house. I'm telling you, it's amazing how many people want to sell my house. I love my house right now. Brian came to my house for a class. He wanted to sell my house. I said, I'm still living here. So I've got realtors. I also have a set. Now, I don't know how this happened, and some people here are going to question me on this, but I have a set of models. I don't know. They're models. They model everywhere in the country. And I guess once you friend one, it's like a virus that it just keeps spreading. Well, the other day there's one model, and I never talk much. I just, basically on Facebook, I post my thoughts for the day. I post my videos. If I'm on vacation, I'll post something interesting. Other than that, I don't use it for anything else. But there was a thought there, and this woman posted a thought. Picture, she's probably 28, 29. She has an absolutely perfect body by today's standards. She's a size 1. You know she has a perfect body because she's showing it off all the time. And the comment written by her was to the tune of this: I'm having the worst day of my life because 2 photographers have told me I'm the wrong height, I'm too fat, and I'm not good enough to be a model. I never wrote anything to this woman, and I typed out, we should never rely on the opinions of others to tell us who our beauty is. Our beauty comes from what we think about ourselves. And I entered it. Because you see, she was living in the world of material. She was not living in the world of change. She was not living in the world of breathing and flowing. Do you realize in every moment the world changes? Think about this. From the time you walked into this room this morning, this room has gone through tremendous changes because with every single thought that each person in this room has had, the whole collective thought of everyone in this room has shifted in a direction. And that direction has created a different energy. And with that energy, there is something happening here that's causing people to respond and to react differently inside, and they don't know why. And most of the time, what happens when we come to Agape and we leave, we're feeling rejuvenated, we're feeling invigorated, we're feeling joyful. Why? There was a collective shifting of thought, not just in the individual, but in the collective group. Does that make sense? So we are living in that change. And the idea of if you walk in here and it's not a good day, think about this too will change. And think about if you walk in here and you're having the greatest day in the world, remember, this too will change. Now I want to pursue this a little bit further because this idea of everything changing and not being attached, did you hear that's the message, not being attached? I want to take it further because it's not being attached, but it's to be fully present. So when you're fully present in the most blissful, joyful experience, you are in it. You are sucking it dry for all of the joy, all of the happiness, all of the expansion that could possibly be. You are there. And when you're in that state where it's not so good, you're fully present and you're saying, okay, what is the contrast I'm experiencing here, desiring me to have as my newest experience? You see, in the way the Buddhists teach it, just be with it. They teach you equanimous, just be with the joy, be with it, be unattached to everything. I don't believe that. I believe we have a creative power, and we talk about that, the creative power of our mind. And when we're in that contrast that is low, we now can make what? A choice. We can choose to do it differently. We can choose to see it differently. We can choose to be around different people. Did you hear that last one? That's a really good one. Because people come into our lives and we learn from them, we grow from them, we laugh with them, we love from them, we cry with them. And there may be a point, depending on the evolvement of the individuals, where they no longer can be a part of each other's lives. Maybe it's a point where we have to be apart to heal ourselves. Because sometimes in a relationship, you can't heal. Does that make sense? Because let me just say this. Where does all true healing start? Within. We cannot rely on someone else for our healing because it's not our healing. Our healing is always within our own heart, within our own mind. So sometimes to do that, if we are in toxicity in a relationship, we must back out of toxicity to build ourselves back to a point where we can self-love, and then we can go into it. We can enter back in or not. That's the real critical thing. There are 7.5 billion people on the planet, and we get to choose which ones we hang with. That's not good or it's not bad. Here's the interesting thing. When you're hanging with people that are vibrating like you, it's easy. When people are not vibrating like you, it's difficult. Did you hear that? Like you, easy, not like you, difficult. In your life today, is it difficult with anyone? If it is, that means there's an inner beingness within you that desires change. And you have to make the decision, is it serving me to be with them? Is there more to be learned here with this person? Or do I maybe need to step back and go within myself? You know, this is the great lesson of Jesus and Buddha and all of them, is whenever there was work to be done, they went within. They always left the masses. They left the relationships. They went to the desert. They went to the mountain. They weren't real places. They were talking about going into meditation. They were talking about going within. They were talking about doing the work themselves. You see, so when we talk about going within, that's why when you hear about me talking about the daily spiritual practice, that's the work that keeps us grounded. That's the work that keeps us moving in the direction we want. Because remember last week, we talked about the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. Well, if the soul is continuing to expand, there must always be change. Do you hear that? So there's a law of change that's working because it's natural for the soul to become more. If the soul feels that the human body, the human experience is stagnant or going down in its experience, it sheds its body. It sheds the body to move on to another way of being. So the key thing is, what's your dream? You're going to change. There's no doubt about it. You're going to change. It's just like you're going to die. You can't run away from it. It's going to happen. The key thing is, have you decided what the change is? Have you made the personal decision in your life to determine what change is going to happen to you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? How are you going to be of service in the world? I love this because in teaching Prosperity Plus right now, we talk about the idea of tithing our money. We talk about tithing our time and our talent. And so I get the opportunity to dance with the students doing the same thing. So I'm saying, well, how am I tithing my time? Well, I started saying, well, I do this for Agape, I do this for all these people over here, and I realized, wait a second, you got to step out beyond that. So I went to Frisco Family Services this week, and starting next Thursday, 4 hours a week, I'm donating working in the food pantry. Their suggestion was, why don't you be a part of leadership? And I said, no, thank you. I want to be with people. I want to be with people and share. I want to stock shelves. I want to help people find food. I want to be of service to people in a way that I'm not doing it with the rest of my life. And it's amazing when you're around people who are giving, who are being of service. I found the energy when I went there to talk with people was incredible, because these are people that were not forced to be there on a 9-to-5 job that were getting minimum wage. These are people that were doing it for free because they wanted to. Isn't that what you want to be in anything? Don't you want to be in a relationship where people want to be with you? where you want to be with them because it's fun and it's easy and it's joyful and it's supportive. See, that's embracing this idea of change. When we can embrace change, we have the key to life. When we can embrace change and we understand this too shall pass, do you realize how much inner peace that gives you? It doesn't matter what happens. My father goes through an episode in Hawaii where he's in the hospital. This too shall pass. My brother gets on and does something different. This too shall pass. My sons are having this experience. This too shall pass. My wife is experiencing this. This too shall pass. It's not just the bad, because nothing's bad. Do you understand that? We only label it as such. Everything is just contrast. There's high contrast, there's low contrast, and it's there to move us, to guide us, to direct us. How do we want to be in the world? The key thing when you think about this, if you simply took the Buddhist perspective, that things just happen, you got to learn to be with them, then what happens then? There's the idea of a victim. That's when we embrace the idea that we are victims to other people, we are victims to situations, we're victims to events. But if we embrace the idea that there's a power within us that responds directly to the sum total of all of our thoughts, and it will always give to us, it will always birth that to us, we are no longer victims. We cannot possibly say we're victims. We choose how we experience everything. Did you notice the statement? We choose how we experience everything, because there could be something that happens. We could be in the midst of an ice storm. Our thoughts didn't create the ice storm, but how we respond to the ice storm is ours. That we do own. How we respond to someone saying things that could be considered hurtful is how we control our life. That's a really good one. You see, people say things, people do things, and they never do it to you. They're always doing it for themselves. So if you embrace the idea that people are always doing things for themselves, then you're never a victim. There is no one to forgive on the planet but yourself. Ooh, that's a one that just sort of makes your skin crawl, doesn't it? But you know, Edwene Gaines, she is so clear about the idea when she talks about prosperity that debt is all a matter of unforgiveness. You cannot separate the two. And so when she talked about one of her spiritual practices for forgiveness, which is dealing with change, right? If you can get past the event, you're now moving the change into a different direction. She talked about take a piece of paper and write 35 times in the morning, I forgive myself, or whoever. Then in the evening, write 35 times and do that for 7 days. 70 times 7 is how she put it, okay? What Jesus talked about. The other thing you can do, and you'll see that in the video that I just put out on how to use prayer beads, you can take your mala beads, your prayer beads, and find if there's an event you need to forgive, 108 times find a different reason for what good came out of this. Can you think about that? If you find 108 reasons of what good came out of an event that you experienced, by the time you're done with that round of malas, that round of prayer beads, the event has no emotional charge. You've neutralized it. And this is what the great psychologists, the great teachers, DeMartini teaches. They all teach you've got to neutralize the charge. If there's a real positive charge, you've got to find something that neutralizes it. Otherwise, that charge, that person, that name, that event owns you for life. And what does it do? It owns you because it keeps you stuck in the past. And what happens then? You're not allowing yourself to change. When you fight the law of change, it's painful. Does that make sense? You see, Abraham, when they talk about it, they talk about don't paddle upstream. What is paddling upstream? It's fighting against change. Go with the flow in the direction you want to go. Don't go up against something, go around it. You see, Jesus said it so clearly when dealing with this. He said, turn the other cheek. He didn't say turn the other cheek and let someone slap you. He said turn the other cheek and go in the opposite direction. If you're running up against a brick wall, the only way to go in a different direction is turn away from it. You see, that's what change is about. See, when we embrace change and we understand that everything is impermanent, that's another way of calling it. It's the law of impermanence. There is nothing that stays permanent. I've been married 41 years, and every moment of that relationship is impermanent. And that's a blessing. Because when you embody impermanence, it becomes a joy to live. Because I'll be very honest with you, I don't know how you are, but I bore very easily. Does that make sense? I cannot do something the same way twice because I am just bored out of my mind. I'm constantly trying to create, to do something different. For me, that's what gives me juice. That's what gives me life. If I did what I've seen other ministers do, they write their talks, and they have their podium here. And every 2 years, they pull out the talk from 2 years earlier the same week, and they read the same talk. I'd go nuts. Most of the time, I have my thought of what I'm going to speak of on Monday. I let it process in my head throughout the week. Saturday, I write a couple notes. I give you an idea. Those are my notes. I haven't used them. When I come in, I have allowed that to sit in, and then when I come in front of you, your energy causes me to respond to you based on what I feel is intuitively desiring to be birthed. You see, that's how life becomes an organic, natural process. It's the idea of allowing that spirit within you that's desiring to birth itself anew, to go against the norm, to be the change, to be the new expression that causes others to buy into that philosophy. Don't you love being around people who are always thinking new? Those are people that inspire you to want to think bigger. If you're with a friend and they're telling you, no, you got to hunker down, run. Hunkering down keeps you locked. See that you can't do much there. Hunkering down is mental constipation. It's emotional constipation. It's physical constipation. You see, your thoughts cannot be separated from your body and from your emotions. They're a tremendous impact. They're everything. This is the hardest thing for people to grasp. There is no difference between thoughts and things. But you've got to have a thought to have a thing. It's not that you have a thing to get a thought. Everything starts with cause. And this is the fascinating thing, that as you explore your life and you realize that cause is changing everything all the time, it is the law of change, then when something happens, you always go, what is the cause? And it must be your own thought. Does that make sense? So no longer are we victims because we're going within saying, okay, what do I need to start changing? And here, be gentle. You can't change the sum total of all your thoughts overnight. It takes time. Because they didn't build up overnight. They build up over time. That's why we talk about a daily spiritual practice. Because you're continuously building your thought process, shifting it, shaping it, becoming more so that you vibrate a different energy. When you vibrate that different energy, you attract unto you that which you vibrate. So a lot of times people will do this for 2-3 weeks. It's not enough. What did Jesus say? How often do you pray? Unceasingly. You talk to Buddha, how often do you meditate? Constantly. You're constantly going within. You're constantly controlling your mind. You're the keeper of your mind. You're the keeper of your experience. You are the creator. Did you hear that? Can you say that? I am the creator. Of what? My life. What are you the creator of? Do you accept that responsibility? Are you willing to commit to that? Then honor yourself and watch what you think. Stay out of judgment. Love everyone you're with. But most importantly, love yourself. Love yourself as you change. Love yourself when you look in the mirror and you don't have that face like you did when you were 25, like I did. Now I have a couple little marks, just a couple, not many. And I look at them and I say, oh, those are wisdom marks. Those are love marks. That means I'm an experienced lover. See, you can reframe everything and shift it and shape it and make it whatever you want. So as my son knows, I act like a 25-year-old all the time and it makes him nuts. But I do that because I want the zest of a 25-year-old in my mind. I want to be questioning all the time. But the other thing is, I have the wisdom of a 62-year-old. But I have the curiosity of the 25-year-old. And you see, that's embracing what? Both sides. And I realize that this too shall pass. See, in that moment of extreme bliss, just center yourself and be so present. Be in that bliss. Feel it through everything you've got. Allow it. Experience it as long as it's there. But remember, it'll pass. Then when you're in that neutral state and you're in that calm state, realize, be in that calm state. Be at peace. See the world equanimously, easily, with no attachment. And when you're in that state where there's contrast and it's not feeling all that good, understand that that's a sign from within you that you too can experience more, or you too can shift your thought, and that too shall pass. Remember, how it passes is a choice. And you are the master. You are the master of your life. Let's go within. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.